Hello all of my history-loving friends. Thank you for joining me today. I will be presenting the second part of the Mickey Mantle trip I took to Commerce, Oklahoma. When we left off, Mickey had just been discovered by the New York Yankees and was playing for the minor league team. In the middle of that video, I was standing on what used to be the high school football field where Mickey used to play football, and where he had a horrible injury. When I first got there was a couple walking by, and I asked them if I had found the right place. They said that I had, and then they told me that the home on the corner had been built by Mickey. I didn't know that home existed. They also told me where the owner lived. I am only going to use first names. I don't know if the man I spoke with would mind, but his name was Dennis. He took me to the house. Now, this football field at the time would have had a rock wall around it, and Mickey used to like to sit on the roof there over the garage because he couldn't watch the football games because no one would leave him alone. So he would sit on the roof and he would watch the kids play. Mickey had this house built in 1958. He had 2 children then. Mickey Jr. was his oldest son, who would have been 6 when they lived here, and then David would have been 2 in 1958. The stairs in front of the house were designed to look like Yankee Stadium. His mother hated the top step because there was never enough room to stand on it and open the door at the same time. The siding is made of redwood. At the time of purchase, the redwood had been stained and varnished. I bet that was so beautiful. But he said it didn't stay that way very long. His parents did paint the house. It needs to be painted again, so if you are a house painter, you could have the opportunity to paint Mickey Mantle's house. He says contractors won't call him back. That redwood siding is very hard to find. He did finally find a place in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, who could get him replacements for a damaged piece that needed to be replaced or some sort of repair. And his father, who bought the house in 1960 from Mickey Mantle, his name was Cliff. Cliff had worked in the lead and zinc mines in Pitcher with Mickey's father, Mutt. His name was Elvin. Everyone called him Mutt. In 1960, Cliff was wanting to build a house for his family, and somehow Mickey had found out about it. And Dennis told me that one day his father got a phone call from Mickey Mantle. Now, Mickey Mantle didn't mean a whole lot to them. He'd lived in Commerce his whole life. He worked with his dad. He was just a kid from Commerce. He was doing well for himself. Obviously, he'd been playing for the Yankees since 1951. He was at the absolute height of his career. So Mickey tells him, "I hear you're wanting to build a house." And Cliff said, "Yeah, I have been." And Mickey said, "Well, instead of doing that, why don't you buy mine?" And Cliff said, "Well, that sounds nice, Mickey, but there's no way I could afford your home." And Mickey was in town with Billy Martin. So Billy Martin was a really good friend. They played on the Yankees together and actually got into a lot of trouble together. And as a matter of fact, the Yankees traded Billy Martin in the hopes that Mickey would stop partying so much. They thought he was a bad influence. I don't think it really helped all that much. But at this time, Billy was in town with him, and Mickey said, "Well, just take a look at it." So they did. They went over to the house. They walked around, took a look at it. In 1960, this was an absolutely beautiful home. It still is. It just needs a little TLC. It's been empty for a while. And, when they got through with the tour, Cliff says, "Oh, Mickey, it's a beautiful home, but I cannot afford to buy this from you." And Mickey said, "Well, what if I sell it to you so cheap you'd be a fool to say no?" At the time, Mickey's sister Barbara was living there, and so Cliff asked him, "Well, what about Barbara? Where's she going to go?" And Mickey said, she's got a place to go. She'll be fine." And then he also asked him, "Well, why do you want to sell it?" And Mickey said, "Well, I'm 2 weeks late for spring training, and I'm broke." Now, at this time, Mickey was living in Dallas because it was closer to the airport, so that he could fly back and forth from New York. He had the home in Commerce. He always felt like he was an Oklahoman. Despite the fact that he lived in Texas for so long, he turned them down when they offered to put him in the Hall of Fame in Texas because he was an Oklahoman. So in April of 1960, Cliff bought this house, and Dennis said he lived here for a couple of years, his last 2 years of high school, and then he lived there off and on as he was in college and would come home to visit. But his parents lived there the rest of their lives, and they passed away about 21 years ago. His father, Cliff, passed away a couple of years before his mother, but they lived a good long life. He said his mother was 88, and when she passed away, he has just maintained the house. He keeps some of his stuff there. This is the original deed, signed by Mickey Mantle and his wife Merlin, over to Cliff's parents. It says, Mickey C. Mantle, husband of Merlin L. Mantle, presented in person on the 4th day of April, 1960. The front door is the original door put in by Mickey Mantle. The key is the original key Mickey Mantle handed over to his father. This circular window here was completely open. His mother always covered it with something pretty so that people couldn't see inside the house because she hated that. And of course now he has it covered with some sort of colored foil so people can't just look in and see inside the house. His father put in the storm door. But other than that, this front door is completely original. Dennis preferred to not be on camera, so I have cut him out as much as I can and tried not to show his face. And I have replaced the original soundtrack. The floors in the living room and dining room area were hardwood. But of course, being 1960, the 1960s, everyone wanted the avocado carpet. So it was one of the first things his parents did was put down carpet throughout the whole house. This light fixture, this 1950s light fixture, I am in love with. It is original to the home, of course. The one good thing about them putting these carpets down everywhere is it should have really protected the original flooring underneath. It won't be damaged at all. If you enjoyed this video or any of my other history videos, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when I put up new videos, make comments. I'd like to turn this into a great community where we can have discussions, and I'd love to hang out with all of you again. So please consider doing that. It really helps out. YouTube keeps track of how many people you have subscribed to you, how many views, how long people view your videos. So it really helps a tiny channel like mine for you to hit that button. The wallpaper, you can't hardly even see that there is wallpaper, but when you get close enough, you can see that it has bird cages on it. Maybe some birds, possibly some foliage. Potentially, Dennis said he might be able to find the number of the pattern if he removes a piece of the facing. I did a quick Google search. I never found anything that was even closely resembling what it might have originally been, the pattern. Up here you can see the border it used to have. So the border was separate from the wallpaper. Merlin lived here with their two oldest children. The youngest, David, would have been about 2. So I think these marks here, Merlin would back the children up against this piece of facing, and she would take a hacksaw and she would mark a height marker. I feel like both of these have to be for the younger child because Mickey Jr. was 8 when they moved out, whereas the youngest would have been 2 to 4 years old when they lived here. In the kitchen, you can see Mickey Mantle's initials, custom built into the cabinets. The metal face is very 1950s. The carpet in the kitchen, which was put in by his parents, again, shortly after they moved there. It was a big thing in the 60s to put carpet in your kitchen. Underneath this is really pretty blue and white tile, he said. His parents also put up the paneling, again, something very popular in the 1960s. It also covers up small blue and white tile. He said it was plastic tile. But again, since it's been covered for so long, the color, everything should be really protected and bright and beautiful whenever it's revealed again. The cabinets are all original color, original hardware. They actually look to me like they're bigger than your usual 1950s cabinets. I've read about a lot of people buying homes built in this era and finding that their plates don't fit inside because everything was made so much smaller then. And again, that's why so many of us Americans are larger than our 1950s counterparts. Bigger plate, you eat more. The lighting fixture, which would have been above the dining table, is original, or this would have been the informal dining area. Dennis said his parents spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and that probably the only area where there might be wear of the floor is in the kitchen area because they spent so much time there. They even had a television in this room. They would hang out at the kitchen table, read, watch TV. I guess it would have been a cozier spot than the big living area. Dennis's mother absolutely loved this custom-built sink, and I have never seen anything like this either. It's got the drain-off area built in to the sink. That's really amazing. I wish I had that at my house. The utility room where the washer and dryer would have been is nothing fancy. This heater was installed in 1958 and it still works perfectly. The only thing he has had to do in the last 21 years, since his mother passed away, is replace a gas gauge. This is my favorite room of the house. Dennis called this the trophy room. The paneling you see here was brought in by Mickey from South America. It is a cypress. You will see areas where they have tacked them together, so you'll see a seam right in the middle because they made sure they used every single piece of the wood. I'm sure it was very hard to get a hold of. Probably rare, probably really expensive. But this room was covered in posters of Mickey. They called it the trophy room. I don't know if there were actually trophies in there, if it was just a lot of memorabilia. And most of it was probably collected by his kids and put up by his kids. Because when they moved out, they left it there. And it's kind of funny and kind of a little sad, but Dennis and his dad tore all that stuff down and threw it away. And he said they laughed about it years later, but to them, he was just another guy from Commerce who had a cool job. I love this built-in shelving like they used to do. This is just fabulous. This is the best closet in the house. I was actually a little surprised by the closets in the bedrooms. The lighting, this recessed lighting, is original. The kitchen evidently had lighting like this. If you noticed, they had installed a ceiling fan in that room, but it originally had lighting like this in the kitchen. Dennis was complaining about how useless the light in this room was. It was very dark. But if you're putting things in this room that you want to keep, dark is a good way to preserve things like posters. Under this carpet, again, is a beautiful tile. I don't know if it matches what's in the kitchen. I don't remember. So this is in what would have been the boys' room. The two boys would have had this bedroom, and this cedar-lined closet was theirs. That would have smelled so good. I didn't smell it at the time. These little notations are from Dennis when he was in high school and keeping track of his workouts and his measurements. Wasn't a terribly large room. It was a fairly small, modest bedroom. Nice windows, though. Good lighting. Natural light. All of the decorations in this room were done by Dennis's parents, and he was not fond of it. I forgot to ask him what was underneath this carpet, but this is Mickey's tub. This is the tub Mickey would have taken a shower in. It's original. The sink is also original, as are the cabinets. Those mirrors were neat. I thought the mirrors had it's very vintage look. Mickey must have liked blue because he says that, a lot of the tile was blue. Now, the carpet in this room, it's very gross, but this is the carpet that Mickey put down. This carpet is more than 60 years old, so yes, it's had a rough life. It's very old. This closet really was nothing special. It wasn't even cedar-lined like the boys. So this master bedroom, where Mickey would have stayed with Merlin, really not that fancy. Dennis said his mother was not fond of these drawers and cabinets because they did not have a pull on them. Maybe wasn't a big issue when she was younger, but as she got older, it made it difficult to open them. Now right here, I'm holding in my hand the very key that Mickey Mantle gave his dad in 1960. The lock has changed, I believe, but he kept the original key, which is really amazing. Thank you so much to Dennis for letting me in this house, for sharing this piece of history with me. I have taken his contact information, and I probably will visit him when I go into the area, and he's going to let me know if he ever starts returning things back to the way they were when Mickey lived there. I hope you guys will join me next time. I intend to make an episode about Mickey's career in baseball, so look for that in the near future. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.